If you think like, act like, or are trying to grow like a franchise, then the Franchise Euphoria podcast is for you. Hello and welcome, everybody. Josh Brown here, and I created this podcast for one main goal: to help people who are trying to grow their business through franchising or franchise-like structures. I've been practicing law now as a franchise lawyer for many, many years, and I've seen it done the right way and the wrong way. This podcast is not filled with a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. Rather, I talk with real people who have been there, have done it, are doing it right now. And I also dive deep into specific topics related to franchising. So if this is of interest to you, you are at the right place. So on today's episode of Franchise Euphoria, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Gavin Hamer from Physical Therapy and Balance Centers. Now, the physical is FYZICAL. You may have heard of them. They are a fast-growing physical therapy franchise in the United States, headquartered in Sarasota, Florida. They have more than 400 centers in 45 states. And Dr. Hamer is the National Director of Education for the franchise company. And he came on today to specifically talk about their recently announced new accredited orthopedic residency program, which is a major step for this brand, as they can now offer advanced training and a clinical pathway for physical therapists to become certified orthopedic clinical specialists. After a 5-year-long process, 5 years, Physical joins an elite category with their accreditation by the American Board of Physical Therapy Residency and Fellowship Education, making them the 117th physical therapy orthopedic residency in the United States. So we talked to Dr. Hamer about his background, his long background in this industry, his time with Physical, and we talk a good bit about the certification program and about the franchise itself. Really enjoyed this conversation. Dr. Hamer has a lot to share and a lot of knowledge to impart. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode. Hello, Dr. Gavin Hamer. How are you doing today?
Hey, it's great to join you today.
Well, you are the Director of Education for a franchise system called Physical, but that's spelled with an F, correct? FYZICAL, Physical Therapy and Balance Centers.
True, and I think, the classic sort of headline is, spelled different because we are different, and that's definitely the case. And my understanding is it may have been the Norwegian way to spell it, but don't hold me to that. So that's where I think it came from.
Well, for those listening who don't know about physical therapy and balance centers, why don't you tell a little bit about what they are, what they do, a little bit their history, and then we'll kind of dive into your role and some of the exciting things going on with the brand.
I think it's been rated as one of the top sort of expanding franchises in the country. And now I think, is sitting at about 430 individual practices around the country. It started in the early teens, like perhaps 13, and I'm not exactly sure what date, and where some entrepreneurial visionary people saw what physical therapy could do. And if only we could replicate it around the country with a high standard, that would be the ideal. So when you're looking at any franchise, the whole purpose of the franchise is to provide excellent service, but do it at each site and in a consistent manner. And I must admit, physical therapy, like some other professions, and as you will know, law is another one, which is, it's very hard to sort of pinpoint what it is. So we're trying to build consistency within the brand. So to do that, they decided that they needed, top of the line, skilled people, and they went to Vegas and bought a balance program. So this was already established, was very successful with cutting edge evidence-based practice. So they bought that, and it had been going for a while in Vegas. And so they brought it back here to Florida, where the headquarters were in Sarasota, and then tying into some early adapters. Mike Graves out of West Palm Beach had a very successful series of practices. And so they used his business system. So you're now combining sort of a top business system along with the balance program, and basically we have a successful franchise as a result of that. And my job has been coming on the coattails of a number of other people and trying to coordinate and improve and keep our consistent education program going.
And so these are retail type locations, correct?
Yes, well, the corporate site, I think we have 37 corporate owned, and the balance of the 430 are individual Mar and Par and other organizations. So, for instance, you might be a successful physical therapy practice running 2 or 3 physical therapists, 2 or 3 physical therapy assistants. You've got a billing department and front desk. But your business systems may not be up to scratch. You're a great therapist, but are you a great manager? And the attractiveness of physical is that we can provide you with all those proven business management systems that you can just sort of plug in. And I have to admit that with COVID being last year, my God, these smaller clinics had to stretch even further. They had to be HR trying to deal with COVID, whereas the advantage of this is we had full-time people in Sarasota managing all the corporate COVID policies. So then the small franchisees had this great support system. So it's done very well.
Yeah, and so are you guys finding yourselves in the position of converting a lot of physical therapy locations that are owned and operated by somebody else, and now they're just, as you indicated, they're looking for more systems, for more processes, for better billing practices, and so forth, to really kind of go in there, and then they become franchisees and really position them with an opportunity to grow? I mean, is that part of the growth strategy?
For sure. And that was certainly the case at the beginning where we brought on, I mean, I came on in 2017, and I think we might have been 280 units at that point, and now we're 430. So the growth comes from a couple of avenues. One is existing practices, North Carolina physical therapy or Midtown physical therapy, and they then become a franchisee and then convert their name to that town, Midville, USA physical. So that is a conversion from an existing practice to a physical franchise. The second option would be for somebody to come in who doesn't currently have a physical therapy practice, either an investor or a physical therapist, and they set one up from scratch using the physical template and business practices, which would certainly make things a lot easier, and I think would be very difficult as an individual PT trying to set up from scratch without that support. So that's the second option. And then the third option is because we have all these systems in place, it makes it easier for their existing physical franchise, which might only have one site, allowing them to expand and then become a multi-site facility. So they could be Midtown and then have 2 or 3 other sites around the local area. And all they're doing really is duplicating, and they have the same system. So it becomes, economy of size at that point.
And you're from New Zealand, correct?
Correct, yes.
I've heard amazing things about New Zealand, but I've never been. What brought you over to the States?
Just the opportunities. I mean, there's 2,000 physical therapists in New Zealand, and there's over 100,000 here in the U.S. I don't think there is a practice there that probably has more than 2 or 3 sites. As everything here in the U.S., it's a little bit bigger, and there's more opportunities.
Well, you've been doing this a long time too. I think it's important to get your credentials out. I mean, you've been doing this for since 2017 with physical, but before that for 30 years, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
So talk about that. What'd you do before? I mean, were you doing this with a particular physical therapy location, several locations?
So if we go back prior to 2017, I mean, one of the visionaries in physical was our current president, who's Rick Douglas. And when he came on board with his partner, Chris Mulvey, they could sort of see where this was going. And they were one of the early investors into physical. And Rick was handling the education. So when he was promoted to being president of physical, this left the education position vacant. And Chris Mulvey and I had known each other for a couple of years, so I was invited to become the education director. And so That's why I came on board in 2017. But prior to that, I had, along with my wife, continuing education business called Manual Therapy Educators, and we ran that for a number of years, providing continuing education for physical therapists around the country. We worked in about 20 states and did, I think, 90 teaching days a year. And my history in the States prior to that was running physical therapy centers for orthopedic surgeons and hospitals. So yeah, this is very similar, and but it's just a little bit more exciting.
It's awesome, and I think that your background, your credentials is great, and I'm really excited. I really right now want to talk about with you this exciting certification, the Certified Orthopedic Physical Therapist type program that is now part of the Physical Therapy and Balance Center's franchise opportunity, I'm excited about it from numerous perspectives, but the first one that comes to mind, and then I want to hear all about it, is that, I'm always talking about on this podcast and in general with my clients, the idea that if you're going to be a successful franchise long term, you've got to have a very clear value proposition, not just at the outset of when somebody comes into the system, right? Because at the outset, the value is obvious. You're providing them with something that's more well baked than what they already have. But the key
Correct.
to franchising, in my opinion, is providing that long term value. And this kind of certification type program is exactly one of those pieces that I believe helps provide some of that long term value for a franchise system. So, with that kickoff, go ahead, tell me about this certification program.
Well, let's look at it another way. Let's look at why a practice might be successful compared to another, and what the patient is looking for is skilled, consistent care. So they want to know when they're coming to for their physical therapy treatment that one, it is the most up to date technology and knowledge, and two, that it's going to be delivered in a consistent manner. So they're going to see the same therapist each time within one or two people, and each one of those treatments is consistent. So getting back to the certification, so within the medical field, you would have a board certified dermatologist or a board certified plastic surgeon. Within the physical therapy realm, the mother organization is the American Physical Therapy Association, and they have credentialed organizations to certify people along the same lines as the MD. So we have a certified clinical specialist in orthopedics, and there's geriatrics, there's neurology, and a few other ones. So now we are able to provide the learning program, the residency, to have our therapists go through the system and become certified orthopedic specialists, which means that they have a postgraduate above the norm skill set in orthopedics, and then they can deliver that care and become more effective for the patients. So this was originally envisioned by Rick Douglas, and then he put in the original application. So when I came on board, I took over the work that he had done, and it's been a long process. It's a lot of work, and we had our successful sort of audit in 2020. We had our first resident go through the program, and each year in February, early March, they sit their sort of national exam. And unfortunately, it takes a couple of months for them to get us the results. So we're waiting for the results come June, I think. And then having those candidates pass that means that they then are recognized as a certified clinical specialist in orthopedics. OCS, orthopedic clinical specialist. So that means then, when we're tying into the franchise, and as we talked about before, the whole advantage of the franchise is one, you have a proven management administration system, you have HR support, but on top of that, you have access to the best education on the orthopedic realm, or what physical has hung its hat on is the balance. So now we can sort of equate orthopedic skill, top of the line, with our current balance ability as well. So that's sort of where it fits in.
Is it necessarily a part of the franchise? So, in other words, are you certifying only people who are part of the franchise system?
people who are part of the franchise system can apply to become to host or hold the residency program. The criteria is that they have to have an administrator, which is myself, so I would administer it. And then the site itself has to provide a qualified mentor, whether they be a fellowship trained manual therapy person or whether they have their OCS, orthopedic clinical specialist certification already. And then that person can mentor the new resident over the 1 year program. So, back to your question, in order for one of the franchises to offer this, they would have to provide their own clinical specialist to become the mentor for the resident.
Got it. Okay. And then you are the National Director of Education,
Correct.
which includes coordinating, these requirements for various aspects of the physical franchise. But tell me more about what you do. I mean, are you going around doing a lot of trainings for folks, and what else is involved in your role?
So my role is really coordinating three main areas. So one is balance. So Brian Werner is our balance guru, and so we plan, budget, and organize balance courses around the country. And then on the orthopedic side, I teach those. So far, we have done three, which involve weekend courses. Last one I was in Omaha, Nebraska. This coming weekend, I'm in Provo, Utah, followed by Colorado Springs, followed by Brevard, North Carolina, and so on. So we'll probably do 15 courses throughout the year, in addition to our national convention, which is called Brand Triumph. That's going to be October 15, 16 in Kissimmee, Florida. And then on the third aspect of education is pelvic health. So Dr. Ruth Jenkins is our provider of that. She's certified in women's health as a clinical specialist there. So we have sort of the three branches: pelvic health, orthopedics, and balance. And yes, and I coordinate those.
What do you attribute? And obviously, I know your role as the National Director of Education. So I'm just curious your opinion, having worked with physical now for the last 3-4 years. What do you attribute to their success and their growth and their ability to stand out amongst other physical therapy and balance operators?
I think one is the consistency and the business practices. And you sort of intimated early on, we can all get infatuated by, say, something new, but it's really your ability to continue to deliver a month out, 2 months out, 2 years out, and so on. And this is really where the education fits in. So with the franchisees, they pay a royalty back to the corporation, and that gives them free access to the education that we provide. So normally, for instance, we had 34, I think, on our upper quarter course in Omaha, Nebraska, and most people would be paying $400, $500, $600 for that course over the weekend, and then so that is provided free to the franchisees. So it's a high dollar value that we provide and they get via their royalties. So yeah, my job is twofold. One is to get the best education out to as many of the sites as possible, but also build in consistency of care, because as you know, Southwest Florida really is known for season and non-season, and we're just finishing season, which means everybody from New York and Michigan and Indiana occasionally come on down for 3 months, and they have their therapy here, but they will go back up to Indiana and have hopefully the same physical therapy and the same standard at their physical franchise back up north. So the success really is proven business systems, but also being able to provide consistent care for the patient while providing sort of top of the line education, which is sort of evidence based and effective.
Is this franchise headquartered in Florida then?
It's in Sarasota.
In Sarasota. And
Mhm.
I'm curious for, people listening in or maybe people thinking about it. If you're just coming out of physical therapy school and you're looking, I mean, is this the type of franchise that you guys are looking for experienced physical therapists? And is it a requirement that they be a physical therapist to own the franchise?
I mean, there are a number of sites would be in partnership with physical therapists, or they're owned by non-physical therapists, just private investors.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different sort of scenarios. Now, back to your question, is as a new grad, I mean, the idea of a new grad really is a bit like driving a car. Once you've got your driver's license, now you're safe to be on the road, and now you need to learn how to drive. And
So you got to learn how to be a physical therapist, right?
right. So, you've just passed your national boards. You're qualified as a physical therapist. You're now safe to treat patients, but you still have a lot to learn. And unfortunately, of course, most of us don't know how much we have to learn at that early age.
I know you think you know everything, right? And then you get
Oh,
out 2
yeah.
years and you're like, oh my God, I was just
I'm
a little puppy.
horrified. I'm apologizing for everybody because the whole point is that I mean I'm in the clinic day to day and I'm learning every day, and I'm running into this point. I said, man, I'm going to run out of time to learn everything there is to learn. But back to the new grad, an ideal situation for a new grad would be actually to become employed in a physical environment where you have cutting edge technology, cutting edge knowledge base, an effective mentoring system, and then hopefully you would stay with physical or then branch out and set up your own franchise. But what a great grounding and base for a career, having started with physical.
Now, are you guys working on additional certification type programs, or is this going to be the main lead that you guys continue to utilize and grow?
We are looking at expanding what we have. We have an approved site in Bonita Springs, which is valid for 5 years. And we're looking at other sites here at Metro Fort Myers, Colorado Springs, and El Paso, Texas. So we'll be adding more residency throughout the country as people become interested and have that OCS mentor on site to help the resident. As far as other certifications, we're looking into it on the balance side, but really haven't gone much further than that at this point.
Well, if anybody wants to learn more about the physical therapy and balance centers, you can go to www.physical.com. That's www.fyzical.com. Dr. Hamer, thank you so much for coming on. I guess I'll finish off by saying, are asking you, now that you've been a part of the physical franchise system for, more than 3 years at this point.
It's been good.
It's been good, right? I mean, it's been
Yeah.
really good. What have you, obviously this is Franchise Euphoria. So it's all about a lot of people listening are contemplating turning their businesses into franchise or becoming part of a franchise system. What have you learned about franchising that maybe you didn't know or didn't realize before you became a part of the physical brand?
One, it's really nice to be part of a positive, expanding business. I've run clinics in sort of nonprofit, sort of hospital situations, which was slowly dying, and that's not quite as much fun. Just the emphasis on education, which is what I enjoy. So then you just have the opportunities to learn more and more. And then, we have a lot of students coming through. So it's always exciting to sort of open their eyes to what's out there. And of course, they keep me young as well because they're up with the play as well.
Well, keep up the great work. It sounds like you've got a busy schedule ahead of you to roll this thing out. But the Physical Therapy and Balance Centers franchise sounds really, really interesting. Like I said, I really like this certification program. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Franchise Euphoria. If you enjoyed it, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. It really helps to get this show out to more and more people. Also, if you have any questions, have ideas for guests or topics, please email me, josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. That's josh@indyfranchiselaw.com. And finally, please note that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes and is not in any way, shape, or form meant to be any kind of legal advice. If you're seeking legal advice, please contact a lawyer. Have a great one. Happy franchising.